Today we welcome David Dippong. David is the go-to resource for real estate needs in Southern California, from Los Angeles to Orange County. Working within Cømpass, the top real estate brokerage in California, he specializes in residential single and multifamily purchases, sales, and investments. David helps high and low income individuals plan for, create, and acquire diverse residential property portfolios that meet their investment and financial freedom goals. His clients achieve a higher level of real estate education, buy their first, second, third home, and actively leverage their real estate through long-term plans to build multi-generational wealth and a life by design. His book is called The Long and Not So Short of It.
The Empowerment Zone.
What made you get into real estate? How old were you when you said real estate's going to be in what made you do that? I've thought of it before.
In my 20s, I was a private chef, and I moved into real estate as a way to not only help others, but also help myself. Because as a chef, it's very fun, but you're only really affecting one or a few people a day. And I always liked the numbers. I always liked, math and investing. So I switched into doing something I could like, but also leverage for myself, which is helping people buy homes, build wealth, secure financial freedom, but also being my own business owner and deciding my schedule and deciding how I'm going to be of service to people, as opposed to having to be somewhere for 16 hours a day, 6 days a week, and then figure out what I wanted out of life during that other day.
That, you know what? I think that is exactly what wealth is. It's freedom. Freedom to do whatever it is that I want whenever I want to.
Even just not, if you don't want to look at it as freedom, if that's too abstract of a concept, it's options. It's having the option to do anything you want whenever you want, and not go, well, how much does that cost? Or how much does this? Or how much? You always have the option to change your life when you're financially free, or when you're just emotionally free.
I think that's an important point, that, self-development nowadays is really part of success. You really can't have one without the other. You have to really work on yourself and make sure that you are, healing wounds, or healing yourself and figuring out who you are. I think that's part of success as well.
Well, it has to be. Our world has become so much like you have access to all the information. You have access to everybody else's lives. You have access to good things and bad things, educational things and time wasting things, like we talked about. That how do you decide where to go from there? I really do think that self growth and really mentorship for the people that are looking for it is the way our society is going to have to grow next.
Well, because I think we went through this thing where people were looking for a spiritual guru, someone to guide and lead them. I don't think people are looking for that anymore, but I think coaches and mentors are a thing, like somebody that has come before me and can show me the way. I think that it's valuable. And I think that's what we're looking for more now than just a guru, someone that will actually empathize with me and can understand where I am coming from and where I've been and where I want to go.
Oh, I 100% agree. It's the whole reason I wrote my book, or the book I'm about to finish. It's that when you're going to get a general education from everybody, from your environment, from your family. You're going to get general education from every place you go in your life. But where's the specifics? How do I achieve the life I want? How do I become the life that I want? Because regardless of how much time you spend in school, there's just not enough time to dive into every single student's unique abilities and teach them on wherever they're at right now. So I really think that we're going to go from a society where health insurances cover a doctor, and they cover a therapist, and they cover these more wellness-based preventative measures now. I think a life coach is going to start being one of those in the next few decades. I don't know how long it's going to take, but it's going to be like, all right, go to this person if something's wrong with you physically. Go to this person if you feel like something's wrong with you mentally. Go to this person if you want to actively grow and not just treat things that are already wrong with you. If you want to actually decide your direction in life and meet with them on a monthly or weekly basis and pursue that direction.
So you started out in California, in what you say, Los Angeles and Orange County. Did you start
Yeah.
off doing real estate in that area?
No, I started off as a private chef and then I moved into real estate here. And because my family has a place in Newport and Santa Monica, and I have a place in Santa Monica, so naturally it becomes, well, who can I help the most? And the people I can help the most are people in the coast, people are in the most expensive real estate investing area that are going to actually, barring the people who have funds delivered to them from their parents or trust funds or things like that, they're going to need to work to figure out how to buy a home. And when they do, that home is going to become one of the greatest investments they ever make. So by getting into real estate on the west side and close to my homes, the places I live, the places I have experience in, I'm able to better guide people on how to do exactly what I'm doing. Build wealth, buy homes, prepare in a market where you have to prepare for 5 or 10 years before you buy your first one, as opposed to just saving up 1 or 2 years and maybe purchasing where I'm from, Ohio, Cleveland, and maybe purchasing something for 200,000 instead of 1 million. It's a lot easier to save up the down payment for a $200,000 house than it is for a $2 million home.
Well, I'm also wondering, because different than Seattle real estate's gonna, is it to be so much different than what you do in California?
I don't think so. Austin, Seattle, Nashville's grown a fair amount over the last few decades. Atlanta. Each time a city is getting any kind of industry coming in, investing in the area, building companies, building offices, building transportation. Any company comes in and spends a lot of money for any reason, bringing their employees to a certain area. The area has no option but to go up in value and to go down in home supply. And what does lower home supply do? It increases the prices that you're going to have to pay there and the competition you're going to have to fight to be able to stay there long term.
So what is the benefit of purchasing homes? Well, okay, so Robert Kawasaki said, I believe it was him. Maybe I'm wrong, but I believe he said that it was a liability. Buying a home is a liability. What would be the benefit of purchasing a home and having it then?
Well, there's two ideologies. There's one where debt is bad debt, and there's one where debt is good debt. Homes are good debt because we've become a society, a capitalist society, that the cost of living does in fact double every 22 to 30 years. So if you split the difference, you say every 25 years, the amount of money I'm going to spend on rent, food, everything doubles. Well, if you're buying your home and you pay it off, most people spend between 30 to 60% of their income on their home. If you buy a home and you pay it off, you've eliminated 60% of your cost of living. That means it could double in the next 25 years and you would still be fine. So buying a home is about one, security, and about two, saving up that equity. So not only do you eventually pay it off and reduce your cost of living extremely, but you also are sitting on a lump sum that can be leveraged for future investments, challenges, opportunities, college funds. And when interest rates are low and that money is fairly cheap to borrow. When you rent or when you invest in something without utility, something that you can't live in, and the market takes a turn, or things keep increasing in value faster than it, you're sort of left with nowhere to go. Because your rent will always increase if you never buy. And eventually there will come a point when you stop working, or when most people stop bringing in their ideal income. And so that's really why you want to buy at least one home, if not a few, over the course of your working career.
I've also seen another model where people will buy a new home every 2 years. They fix it up a little bit and then sell it and then live in something else for 2 years while they fix it up and then they sell it and continue. So they get rid of that mortgage, but they make the profits.
Flipping is definitely a good strategy in a good market. In a market where interest rates are going down every year, and you're pretty sure that prices are going to be higher every year, moving and then getting that owner occupied loan, that owner occupied rate for each of those homes is a great way to build up capital. However, when you run out of homes to flip, inflation will devalue your money. Unless you invest it somewhere, your money will go down faster than it grows in any sort of savings account or anything like that. So it would behoove you to maybe buy two homes, flip them, get enough money to buy a multi-unit or to buy your actual home and start paying that off, and then keep putting the rest of the proceeds into more flips. And then even if you never stop flipping, you could still put a little bit of money from each project into paying off your forever home to reduce your cost of living, or to paying off that 4 unit so that when it's paid off, it becomes 100K or more of passive gross income every year, effectively replacing one or both of your salaries whenever you want to stop working. So there's a bunch of different ways you can look at it. It just depends on how aggressive you want to be. Investing in real estate is the long, slow, safe way to gain that wealth and that freedom we talked about. Investing in stocks,
Right.
shooting from the hip and starting companies, investing in different things like that is for a more aggressive and confident person in the skills that they're employing in whatever avenue they're trying to go down, because it's high risk, high reward.
Well, is real estate because you have to I've seen realtors not make like maybe one sale a year in some cases. So even if you're a bad realtor, is it still lucrative to become a realtor?
No, it's not lucrative unless you want to do the work. There's always going to be a real estate cycle that's 10 or 6 to say 12 years. And after the cycle of growth, there'll be a slow time. We just went through that slow time between 2022 and 2023. Both of those entire years were the slow time. And now that rates are starting to come down and the Fed has signaled cuts, you're starting to get people back in. To be lucrative in the real estate industry, you have to make enough during the good times to invest and save you over, so that when that year or two comes where you only close a few deals each year because it's just not a good time to sell, and there's no reason you should tell your clients it is, because it isn't, that you have the funds to make it through that time and you can work on other projects, you can work on the growth you need to hit the next cycle running.
Okay. So it is very cyclical. And so can you like watch that trend? Like, as the market goes up and down, can you like call the trend if you study that? Or how do you know when to save her?
Absolutely. As soon as remote work hit in COVID, I could, from day one, I said, this is definitely going to cause a lot of commercial real estate to have issues. And here we are a few years later, and there's a lot of empty commercial real estate not being used for anything and being converted into homes. Well, of course, that was the logical conclusion of more than 50% of the people not going, like, not being able to be in the office, but still getting the same amount of work done. So
Mhm.
you can see, and then you can see in 2022, you can see when rates double over the course of, you can see they're doubling. You can see it happening, and you tell your clients, hey, this isn't going to correct itself in the short term. You're either going to buy now, or you're going to buy later this year with a 50% higher payment. And we don't know when it's going to come down, but best guess is a few years. And you can, based on what's happening in the economy, you can get an approximate of what's going to happen. Now, whether people believe you or whether they're watching the 24-hour news cycle getting scared of everything running around is another story. But all of this stuff isn't rocket science. The transactions are much more complicated than actually reading the market. we know now that interest rates are coming down, payments are going to be lower, more people are going to buy, and that's going to drive prices up. So you want to make a good investment, you want to buy a home, buy in an area that has high demand. It's just not super complicated unless you make it complicated. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense. So is it hard to figure out the contracts?
They change every year. There's always, you have to reread them, figure it out. It's really not that hard. It's just a lot of information. So if you don't want to reread the new contracts every December when they release them for California, then you might run into some trouble. But almost every resource you have, offices, brokers, everything, are there to make sure you're up to date on what's happening legally and what's happening in the contract so that you can properly convey that to your clients. It's just a lot of words. It's not a lot of hyper difficulty.
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, so you were saying your book is not published yet?
No, it's going to be out in April.
Okay.
The impetus of the book was, if I can only work with this many people in California at one time, I have to have a license for every state I work in. How do I help everybody better prepared to grow? Whether that growth leads you to be somebody that buys a home, or whether that growth just leads you to be someone that invests in yourself and figures out how to become the person that might want to buy a home, that might want to start their business. The book is there for that, so it can reach the 90% of people I'm never even going to run into. And then the few that do agree with the investing strategy that I lay out and what I do, they can work for me or they can work with me. But it's really about providing people a more specific set of guidance, like we said, a mentor, a coach, than letting them just try to stumble through and figure it out. Because besides the top 10%, a lot of people aren't doing a really great job of figuring it out, especially as things have gone up in cost so much over the last 5 years.
That's absolutely true. Absolutely true. Well, if anyone connected with you today, how can they find you online?
So I have a website right now. It's www.dippongrealestate.com. So Dippong realestate.com. You can find any of my contact information there, and my email, my phone, send me a message. And really, that's what I encourage people to do. So until the book comes out, it really is, hey, you have a need, you have a question, send it out. If I can't help you, I'll point you to somebody who can. But nobody can that for you more than you do for yourself. So what do you have to lose by sending somebody a message and saying, hey, I'm curious, how can I get started to do this? How could I want to improve myself? What can I do? Because you're going to be here for all of that time anyway. You may as well be the person you actually want to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We spend too much time trying to be something somebody else wants us to be.
Or worse, employed carrying out somebody else's dream.
Right.
And then letting time go by.
Yeah. So we always think there's more time. You never know when you don't have any more.
It would be wild if you did. You're like, I only got 2 years left, so it's okay.
That's funny. My son was just asking me about that. He's like, so what would you do if you knew exactly when you were going to die? And I'm like, well, I don't know. How long do I have? I probably have a lot of questions, but you probably would act a lot different if you had a date. Like you knew that's it.
If I had 2 years, I'd be like, all right, first year, figure out if I can get more years. Second year, do that trip if that one doesn't work out. I'm not just going to give up.
Right. Well, that Brian Johnson, I don't know if you've heard of him. He's the most measured man on earth, and he's like constantly getting scanned, trying to figure out how to reverse aging.
Longevity science is real. I've read a few books. I don't know if you've heard of David Sinclair or Matthew Walker. They're PhDs that have published books on longevity and sleep science and things that you can do that are the best medicines for your body. things that everybody could be doing that will probably add 8 to 10 years onto your life. And it's backed by science. It's backed by studies that they run on animals, people, all the shit that they've gathered. And it comes back to the information is out there, like we said. Like all you have to do is get interested in a thing, Google that thing, and by next week you could know volumes of new information on achieving whatever that is.
That's true. It's absolutely true. He actually outlines like exactly what vitamins he takes, precisely what his meals are, like everything is precisely measured. He's in his 40s, but he's like aging at the rate of a 10-year-old, I think he said.
Yeah, you
It's
can actually measure your blood to see what your blood's age is. So you could be 35, but if your biological markers are 31, you've got four more years in you. It's crazy and it's really interesting.
Isn't it? It is really interesting. That I think that's why we look. I mean, I would rather look at that stuff than like probably reality TV personally. But I'm like, that's usually what I'm doing if I'm not, doing something for the podcast. I'm probably researching something that's interesting like that.
Oh, definitely. I'm looking at a 2 hour, 2.5 hour YouTube video of a PhD break something down. Just feel like, yeah, I'm gonna live forever. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. Like,
I'm
it's
that
just
person.
one of the things I cover in my book. It's that for you to succeed, for you to achieve a goal, you gotta be excited about it. You gotta find a way to be interested in it because you won't do
Passion.
anything that you're not interested in. I don't do anything that I'm not interested in. Nobody does.
Yep.
It's a myth that people are out there doing things that they find boring and terrible every day.
I think you're right. I think because we're gonna lose interest. We're not gonna do it, and then there's somebody else. Aren't you doing this? Because it's horrible.
I guarantee you, there's at least 1,000 New Year's resolutions that have already been dropped, just because you don't like it, and that's fine. Just do
Yeah.
something you like better, and then make a resolution on that, and you'll probably get a lot farther.
I think you're right. So April, it is coming out. You're going to announce that, I guess, to your followers, or
Yeah, I'll announce it to my followers. I'll send it out in my monthly newsletter. I'll
okay.
send it to you and anybody else, any of the dozens of podcasts I've been on over the last few months. It's expected April 2024. It's called The Long and Not So Short of It, A Simple Path to Success Living by Design and Investing in Real Estate for anybody who's after one of those things. And it's made to be the simplest way to break it down. It's not a lot of jargon, it's not a lot of anecdotes, it's just a lot of basic things that you can do to achieve success and then build the habit of succeeding. So that maybe that next thing you try, the thing that's a little bit bigger that might be intimidating, isn't so because you already have so much experience achieving small daily wins.
Oh, that's a really good point. It is you don't have to start off with a huge win. You can start off with small things that build your confidence and make you feel better.
No, 30 win. You got 30 days to win in a month. You could start off by winning 16 of them. It's more than that. And then build from there. Maybe next month 17, maybe next month 18. Nobody was built in a day. And nobody succeeds alone. So you gotta find these things that you can do to succeed and then find the mentors, professionals, coaches, whatever you want to call them, that already have a track record of succeeding at those things to make it so much easier for yourself.
Absolutely. Well, David, thank you so much for being here and sharing this with our audience. And I look forward to your book coming out.
Thanks so much. I'll definitely let you know.
And everybody has their specific one that they won't go anywhere else. Like, no, I only
No,
do LinkedIn.
threads came in. I was like, another one? I gotta do another one?
That's funny. Yeah. Well, it was awesome meeting you. I really appreciate it. You answered some of my questions because I have looked at just being a realtor. I'm like, why not? I
Well, at the
can,
very least, it's not expensive to get a license. And even if
yeah.
you never actually work in sales, and if you just like help a friend out every now and again, when
Mhm.
an opportunity comes to buy the next thing that you want, you're going to have an easier time doing it. Or if you find something that's a great investment for you, you won't have to pay anybody else to make it happen. So it's just another way to
It was nice meeting you. I really
It was
enjoyed
nice
it.
meeting you. Thanks for having
Yeah.
me.
The Zarlequan Indieverse.